So, hi, this is Gil Robles. I am doing another watercolor done on my lunch hour at work, and I do have to be quick, but I am not working this fast. I am speeding up this video just a bit. I'm trying to speed up past, at least initially for this part here, as the pencil drawing, as I put down, just some indications of of the shapes and the placement of the features and so forth. And I don't know if just going through viewing this part becomes tedious. It is kind of like the planning of the rest of the painting. It is important to me, especially when doing a watercolor, that I plan out where things go. But I'm starting to work less and less, or trying to get away at least from putting, I'm what I'm trying to do is put in as little detail as possible, just enough for what I need to indicate, just the skeleton of the painting, of what I'm going to build things on. It's important because I need to know, or I need to address some things at the very beginning. It's easier to be as precise as possible at the beginning and not have to make corrections later on. And especially with watercolors, I have very few options as far as corrections are concerned. I can make some corrections. They're limited though, so it's important for me to get the placement of the features and the shapes right at the beginning, or at least as close as possible, before I start laying in the color. And then the color, because the color becomes another problem. But as long as I have everything solved, then all I need to worry about the color is the values, warm and cool, and so forth. So that part, it may seem tedious, that beginning, but it's very important to get right. Probably the most important part of the painting, as far as the success of the painting is concerned, because most of what goes wrong with the painting goes wrong at the very beginning. And it's just a sketch. I want to get away from doing too much at some point, because I want to get to the painting. I've only got a limited amount of time, but at the same time, I don't want to spend the time on the painting making a bunch of corrections. So I try to get things right. And this also, when it comes to laying down the color, like right now, this is still, I guess, part of the drawing, because what I'm trying to organize the shapes here. I'm trying to first go for those big major shapes of light and dark. So I'm trying to organize it so that it's easier for me to build up on, just going from the big statements to the smaller and smaller statements. So I'm not painting details, but I'm painting the large shapes, and then refining those shapes. And as I refine the shapes, the details emerge. So again, just putting things down, working on making pale or light washes, so that I can build up these washes with darker ones, going over them. So little by little, I arrive to what it is that I want as far as the finished painting is concerned. I might, as I'm putting in these darker washes, I might indicate something. It might seem a little premature to get too dark too fast sometimes, but what I'm doing is just setting down markers for later, and that's part of insecurity. Like, I'm worried about missing out on a detail instead of just building the painting up. But yeah, I've been having fun with this lunch hour sketches, and it's been great being able to make recordings of these sketches. I like I've said in previous videos, what I've been kind of kind of restricted to for a while now is just doing digital stuff, which is fine. I like digital, and you know what, I got to get back to it. There are a few programs. I know Clip Studio has an update, so I need to look into that and update my the program there. But I need to get back to that. But I'm having so much fun doing this stuff, and it's also uh, um, growing as far as me being more ambitious and trying to do different things. I want to try and do a different medium. I started these videos I was doing. I think I started doing watercolors, but then I did also did a pen and ink, which I would love to do again. Then I am going to introduce gouache as well, which would be a lot of fun. Then there's always the thing of, you get more and more ambitious. There's always a thing of different surfaces. And, hey, I've been working on paper. Why not bring a board? Bring some sort of not Bristol board, but there's an option too, because there's different types of things you can do with plate finished Bristol board, but thicker type of illustration board maybe, and do some gouache, or maybe a different type of paper, some arch watercolor paper, where I can either do, well, I've done hot press, I can do cold press, you can also, the more weight the paper has, the more options you have as far as being able to make corrections on the painting. But then again, all of this requires time. All of this requires that, hey, you know what, you have enough time to do all of this, and I don't. I have to work within this 1 hour that I have as a lunch break. Sometimes I might take these paintings, and when I get home, make corrections on them before I go ahead and scan them, or after I've scanned them, I say, hey, you know what, I could fix this up a little bit. But I try not to do that. I try to leave it. I try to leave it as I did when I left off recording it, because I don't want to lose the sketchy quality of it, and also the authenticity that I put in this much time, and this is as far as I got, and I could make some changes, but then this is kind of like wanting to discipline myself to get as much done in that hour, but at the same time not rushing it. So it's a balance. I may make a few corrections, but try not to do that too much. Like I said, I'll lose that sketchy quality, and try to put too much of a finish on it. So these paintings are what they are, and right now, where I'm at in the painting is, like I said, it may seem like I've lost a lot of the pencil drawing. I can still see some of the pencil drawing underneath, and the indications of where the eyes go and so forth. But right now, I keep it general, so that I can get from the big to the little. I can get from the general statement to the more specific. As I lay down darker washes, I'm more concentrated on getting these big shapes right. Because the more I can do this, the more I can the easier. I lost my words there. I think what happened here was that I switched watercolors. I started with these St. Petersburg watercolors, bunch of cakes of those, because I thought they would be kind of a little bit more opaque, but that didn't work out. So I'm going back to my trusty mixtures of I think Winsor Newton and M. Graham, I think it is. I'll find out which watercolors, and I'll put them in the description below. But yeah, I tend to buy this brand. I think it's M. Graham that I use because I like that they can be give you nice washes, and then you can also get some very thicker paint from them because of I think they put honey in the paint as a binder, so so it comes out nice and thick if you wanted to. The less water you have, and not that I paint with thick watercolor, but it does um, give a little bit, I guess, more body to it. So because the washes that I were putting was coming out way too light with the St. Petersburg watercolors, and I guess those are student grade. Not sure, but I won't be using them again. That's for sure. So, but anyway, like I said, I work from the big to little. Now I'm starting to lay down more darker washes, and there's a point in the watercolor where it looks awful, but you know what it is that I'm just organizing things, and I'm putting down these indications, and then refining them so that it looks better. It's a strategy that I have when I go ahead and I try to organize everything. Um, in just trying to unify all these parts. You see, as I keep going, and I may indicate some darker areas, just kind of like as a marker, but I'm still trying to kind of blend it into a whole, into the rest of the image. I want all of it to be unified, and not a whole bunch of spots here and there. You know, it's not just indicating the features or drawing the features kind of isolated, but drawing the features in the relationship to the whole. It's kind of like it's designing your painting. It's looking at whatever reference or models that you're working from, and then realizing that you have to organize these things in a way that communicates what you want. You have to design it, you know, and that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm thinking of um, like where I can indicate big shapes, and what I don't have to indicate too. It's very important what you leave out and what the viewer's mind and eye puts in for you, um, you know, to fill in the information. But what I try to do is organize things to communicate, like how these things work in relation, how these details work in relationship to the parts around them, or how they are a part of each other. And that way you simplify your design, you make it easier to read, and you know, you don't have too many things jumping all over the place, or or features isolated by themselves and not related to the rest of the face, you know. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm going to right now. That's pretty much an indication of what I'm doing throughout this whole thing. That's my strategy. So I'm going to speed up this video to kind of help move it along, uh, because I, you know, pretty much told you what my mindset was as I'm doing this, so you can see it develop. You just don't have to see it dry, you know. So let me speed up the video now. All right, so here it is. I'm coming towards the end of this, and you can see that how the painting developed. I'm kind of growing as I'm doing these things, and as I'm being more disciplined, changing my approach, changing the way I do things, maybe even getting better materials. The paper that I'm using is fine, but I want to make the washes look simpler as I go on and I do more of these paintings. That could mean changing the paper. Also, the brushes that I'm using better brushes now. Mixture of synthetic and natural hair brushes. I like using these synthetic hair brushes because they're stiffer, and I like using them for as the painting develops, like beyond, like at this stage where I'm more putting in details, or finer touches. Let me not say details, but finer touches here and there, and not just broad washes. But I also use a squirrel hair brush for the washes because they hold a lot of water and a lot of pigment, and they make a very broad. They lay down very broad washes. So I'm using better brushes. I need to maybe consider different paper and so forth. But all of this is growing. I'm starting to get more ambitious. The more disciplined the more I stick to this discipline of doing this on a daily basis. But there are time constraints. I want to do more. There are time constraints, but we'll see. Anyway, this is the finished painting. I hope this video was entertaining and informative. I will be back with more videos soon. Bye bye.